Good morning. Thank you for being here today. Welcome to the Birds of Southern Mexico. This class is being recorded and will be available on YouTube, which you can access by searching for NKA Idaho once you are on YouTube. NKA is a volunteer-driven organization established in 2015 in the Treasure Valley. Our volunteers take pride in providing lifelong learning experiences to the community. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Alexander Sapiens, Professor Emeritus from San Jose, California, from San Jose University in California. Please don't hold that against him. When Alexander retired in 2009, he decided that bird watching would be a good hobby to keep his mind sharp and get him out in the great outdoors. And that hobby has grown into a passion that has taken him birding to 5 continents and numerous countries in Asia, Europe, Central America, South America, throughout the US and Canada, and also New Zealand. He served on the board of the Golden Eagle Audubon Society for 6 years and is a member of the Southwest Idaho Birders Association. Alexander enjoys sharing his knowledge with others and has given numerous presentations on birds of countries he visits or of his favorite birding spots. And one of his favorite birding places is right here in the Treasure Valley. So without further ado, Alexander Sapiens.
Good morning. So I'm doing this presentation on the birds of southern Mexico. Okay, now why isn't this moving? Ah, there we go. So this was a Rhodes Scholar trip through southern Mexico that involved bird watching and a tour of major Mayan archaeological sites. Now, truth be told, there are almost no archaeological sites listed here. In fact, I should put one together because I'm actually very interested in Mayan archaeology. But we actually had 2 guides. One was a bird guide and one was an archaeological guide. And we had a small group of 10 and we went by bus from Cancun to Villahermosa. And we covered 5 southern states of Mexico, all of which are very birdy. Although truth be told, my favorite state was Chiapas. But the states are Quintana Roo, Yucatan, Campeche, Chiapas, and Tabasco. And I don't think Tabasco sauce is made there. And so this map actually shows the states highlighted. And we started up here in Cancun, which is actually in Quintana Roo. And this little triangle is the state of Yucatan. But this is the entire Yucatan Peninsula. And then Campeche, Chiapas, and Tabasco. And the route we took was from Cancun down to Coba, which is an archaeological site. Lisa and I have been there before. And then we went up north to the coast, and then over to Chichen Itza, and then Uxmal, and then south into some archaeological sites down here in Campeche, and then we went all the way down here to Bonampak and a hidden archaeological site in the jungle right on the border. And this border between Guatemala and Mexico is actually a very large, fast-flowing river with crocodiles. And I'd be amazed if anybody tried swimming across that. And after we birded in this area, we ended up at Villahermosa. And then this is just kind of a map of archaeological sites that you can see very quickly, but we're not doing archaeological sites. That would be a presentation unto itself. And these were our 2 guides. Alexander Dzib is the shorter guy, and Rias Escobedo was the archaeological guide. And if I could do this trip over, I would do it in a minute. And then we had a small group of about 10. I'm not in that group because I'm taking the picture. And our first bird, and we're going to go through these birds quite a bit because I have like 220 birds to zip through in an hour and a half. So this is a Muscovy duck. It's actually quite common down there. And I added the scientific name in green, and then in bold, I have the two states. So this is Campeche and Tabasco. And this is a wild duck. The domestic ducks tend to be white, the Muscovy ducks. Moving right along. This is the black-bellied whistling duck. By the way, is there any way of getting the pictures on the side off? Steve?
Yes.
Is there any way of getting these pictures off because it's blocking? Oh, I see, I can move it. Okay.
Yep.
It's blocking my view of the slide. Okay, there we go. So these are the whistling ducks, and they're kind of in between a goose and a duck. They're very long-legged, and when they fly, they make this whistling sound. And very distinctive pink bill, pink legs, and their black belly. And truth be told, the picture on the right was taken in Texas. So you find them in Texas and all along the Gulf Coast. So, duck we find out here in the West, common duck for us is the American widgeon, and I was surprised to see that we have them down there. And they're distinctive because they have kind of a bluish, light blue bill and a white forehead. And then the males have this dark green on the back of their head, and females don't. The females are all brown. And again, out there, if they're far out in the water, you can spot them because of this distinctive black butt. And a very common chicken-sized bird that they had there is the plain chachalaca. So we saw it in 3 different states, Quintana Roo, Yucatan, and Campeche. And the male has a bright red throat. Okay? And they tend to be up in the trees. And probably my most colorful and favorite bird was this oscillated turkey. I was just totally blown away by the diversity of colors of this male turkey. And actually, this small flock of turkeys crossed the road. The driver stopped. And I stepped out, I opened the door, stepped out, and took about 50 pictures. And this is my favorite one. And so, and this was one of the birds that I really wanted to see on this particular trip. So I was definitely pleased. And we did see a couple of grebes, the least grebe. It's not one that we see here in Idaho, but it's a very small grebe with a yellow eye. It's the only one that has a yellow eye, very distinctive. But the pied-bill grebe is very common here in Idaho and throughout the United States. And so, and they had a lot of those. And on the northern coast of the Yucatan, we saw the American flamingos. And so they're all pink, and I believe the pink comes from the little krill that they eat. And you can see from the head that it is actually kind of downward curved and has a large black tip. Okay. Beautiful birds. And one of my favorites oddly enough, is a quite ugly bird, and it's the wood stork. And it's actually a very large crane-like bird. And and truth be told, the picture on the right was taken in Baja California, and the picture on the left was taken in Texas. And so Lisa insisted I take really good pictures rather than the pictures that I actually took. And so some of the pictures I actually did take on site, but some of them I pulled from other states and countries. Then when you get down in Mexico and Central America, you will find the magnificent frigate bird. The black one on the right with a red throat is the male, and the one on the left is a juvenile.
Oh, you have
Because it has a white head. The female would only have a white breast. And the frigate birds tend to soar constantly. They rarely land. And what's interesting is they've done studies of these birds because they were curious as to why they were able to soar and not land. And it turns out that they can actually shut off one half of their brain. So that half of the brain is sleeping while the other half is awake.
That's
And so
wild.
they're constantly in the air, and they're known as parasitic birds because they will steal food from other birds. And on this trip, we saw two cormorants, and these are pictures of the neotropic cormorant, which is found in southern Mexico. It's quite common, and it's distinctive from our more common double-crested cormorant because it has this white right here at the edge of the gular patch. And then in flight, it has a fairly long tail. So when it is flying, its tail and its neck appear to be of similar size. And then we have the double-crested cormorant. And when they're flying, their neck is much longer than their tail. So in flight, you can easily pick them out. And they have a very distinctive yellow area on the lores and the sculler patch, which are yellow, or in this case, kind of orangish. And they primarily eat fish. And the fish always go down head first. If you're curious. And
Anhinga, I know Anhingas.
yeah, this is the Anhinga, and it has a very sharp bill, and when it is in the water, it tends to be submerged, so all you can see is its head and its bill. And so its nickname is the snake bird because of the appearance that it gives in the water. But on the left, we have an Anhinga in its breeding plumage. And then this is on the left, on the right, we have it in its normal plumage. Then we have the American white pelican, which is a very large pelican. In fact, this bird has a 9-foot wingspread. And Lisa wanted me to have a close-up picture, but I wanted this picture to show you the size of the American white pelican in comparison to the brown pelican, because it's twice as large, much bigger. And these white pelicans have a very interesting breeding or a feeding pattern in where a group of pelicans will get out in the water and they will herd the fish into a circle and push them into the circle. And then eat the fish in the middle of the ring.
Hmm.
Whereas the brown pelican will actually fly 30 or 40 feet above the water and then dive into the water to capture its fish. And it will hold it in its pouch, like this one here. This bird is an immature bird. It's all brown. And the bird on the left is an adult in its breeding colors. And it takes about 10 years to get to that level. You know, that to get a breeding adult like that. But very impressive looking bird and very common along the coasts. You'll always find them in saltwater or brackish water, whereas the white pelicans are freshwater birds. And then we found this very interesting bare-throated tiger heron. This picture was actually taken in Costa Rica. And although we did see them in Chiapas and Tabasco, and they have this striated look here, and it's a very chunky bird with short legs and a very stout bill, but still in the heron family. And then this is a great blue heron, and it is the largest of the herons. But over on the left, this is a picture taken in the Boise River where I saw this great blue heron swallow this 18-inch trout. Now, believe it or not, it tried to swallow it this way, but the fish was too big. And finally, it had to submerge it into the water. And once it got it down into the water, it finally was able to swallow it. I was totally blown away that a heron could eat a fish that big. It took it about 30 minutes to swallow that fish, but it actually got it down. And then the next large heron is the Great Egret. And generally they catch smaller fish like this one on the left. And this heron is unique because it is all white. It has black legs and feet, and the bill is kind of a yellowish orange. And if you get close, you can see a kind of a greenish eye ring. And this is the bird taking off, definitely all white and large. And then half its size is the snowy egret. And the snowy egret has a black bill, and the lores, that's the area between the bill and the eye. The lores are yellow, okay? But it has black bill and black legs. But it's unique in it has very bright yellow feet. And you can see the yellow feet over here in flight. And it'll get into shallow water and it will wiggle one foot in the water and use it as a lure. And the fish will be attracted to the yellow foot. And when they get close, the snowy egret then will stab it with its sharp bill. And again, swallow the fish head first. This is a yellow-blue heron, and they're kind of a dark gray, and they have kind of a bluish bill with a black tip. The bird on the right is in its breeding color, and so the leg color will change to kind of an off yellow or a greenish yellow, and then it'll develop this maroon head and breast color. So regular color and the breeding color. And by the way, it's half the size of the great blue heron. And a couple of years ago, we actually had a little blue heron come to the Boise River. And this is a tricolored heron, and it's kind of in between the great blue and little blue in size. All gray, tricolored because of its throat, which is kind of white, black, and kind of a red or chestnut color. And this is a reddish egret, and this is an egret on steroids. This egret is constantly moving and jumping, and it has an interesting fishing technique in that it'll get out in the water and open its wings like an umbrella and create a canopy. And then when a fish comes into the shade, it snags it and it's lunch. And of course, it's distinctive because it has that red head and neck. Then we have the cattle egret. Cattle egret actually migrated on its own from Africa to South America. And then from South America, it's worked its way north. You can find this bird throughout Mexico. And both of these birds are kind of in breeding colors. The flying bird, you can see the kind of rufous back. And on the right, the bird has a little yellow on the crown. And when it's in full breeding, the breast will become yellow. And these birds tend to be out in fields around cattle. And what they do is and horses. And they'll go around and pick at the poop and pick up all the flies and bugs. And so they're primarily insectivores. And this is a little green heron. It's kind of a small, squat heron. And when I first saw one, I thought, why is this a heron? Because it didn't have much of a neck. But that brown neck actually becomes very elongated when it goes after a fish. And it's called the green heron because of the green crown. And they tend not to be so much out in the water, but along streams and ponds. This is a yellow-crowned heron. Take that back. A yellow-crowned night heron. And it has this crest, these feathers that hang back. Its feet are yellow, and it'll develop yellow on its crown. And it tends to, again, be along the shore and not so much in the water. And then we have the boat-billed heron. And this heron we found in the I want to say the manglares, which are the trees that grow along the ocean, and the mangroves, excuse me. And so they tend to be kind of singular, and they hide in the mangroves. This is a white ibis, again, a bird that's found throughout Mexico, and now we're starting to find it in the southern parts of the United States, all white and very orange bill and legs. But when it flies, the wingtips are black. And this is a roseate spoonbill, and it has a spatulate bill and very pink body and pink wings. And I believe this picture here was actually taken in Costa Rica, and the one on the left, my left, was taken in Florida. So you can find them in Florida and South Texas. And oddly enough, they're working their way up to California. Not there yet. Okay, this is a black vulture. We actually don't get these in Idaho, and they're a smaller vulture. And as they fly, they have kind of a long tail, and they have white wingtips. So large black bird with white wingtips. Okay, and this is a turkey vulture, and has an all red head that only a mother would love, and the point of the bill is yellow, and they're actually kind of brownish, but in the air they look black. And the distinctive flying feature here is the trailing edge of the wings are white, but very common in southern Mexico, but also here in the western United States. In southern Mexico, they also had the lesser yellow-headed vulture, and the flying pattern is identical to the turkey vulture. The distinction is the yellow head. And when we were on the Amazon River, they had a much larger one called the greater yellow-headed vulture. And then this is the king vulture, and which is a very large vulture, not quite as big as the condor. It's a neotropic bird. In flight, it's predominantly white with the wings having a black trailing edge. And when I've seen these birds, they've been very high in the sky. And this other picture I took actually in a zoo. The osprey is a common bird here. And its old name was fish hawk because they only eat fish. And it's dark brown on top and white on the bottom. And they do have this eye line that is dark brown. And the female will have like a pearl necklace or dark spots along the upper breast. And they make large wooden nests. This is a white-tailed kite, his reddish eyes. It's all white with black shoulders. And by the way, kites, like the osprey, will tend to fly in one spot in the air, or kite. And then this is a snail kite, and it's a dark hawk with a white rump over here. And I guess they tend to like snails, hence snail kite. Then we have the black-collared hawk, which tends to be a all rufous bird with a white head and a black collar. So you can see the black collar. And it's kind of a medium-sized hawk. Then we have the common black hawk, which is a large hawk, the size of our red-tailed hawk, kind of all black. But when it flies, you can see this broad white band. And this is the roadside hawk, which looks paler when it is perched, but when it flies, its wings are more rufous or reddish. Okay, and the pattern on the belly is vermiculated. You can see it here on both birds. Medium-sized hawk. And another medium-sized hawk would be the gray hawk, again, with a vermiculated breast. You can see it not only on the breast, but on the wings. It's all gray with 2 white bands and 2 dark bands on the tail. And again, this is a bird that you can find in southern Arizona, as well as all of Mexico. This is a short-tailed hawk. There are actually 2 morphs, the dark morph, which is all brown, and the light morph, which has white under the wings and on the breasts and belly. But the head, in both cases, is dark. This is a white-tailed hawk that is common in southern Mexico. And again, it's dark on the back and white on the front. Bright orange legs and a distinctive white tail. Now, I took both of these pictures in Texas. This is a zone-tailed hawk, which is a large hawk, about the size of a buzzard or a turkey vulture. And they tend to fly with turkey vultures and mimic them so that their prey thinks that it's a turkey vulture. But in fact, what it does is it'll suddenly break away, dive, and catch the rabbit or small animal that thought it was going to be a turkey vulture, because turkey vultures only eat carrion or dead food, dead meat. Okay, and these pictures actually were taken in Baja California, although it's very common in southern Mexico. This is a black hawk eagle, and we found this one in Chiapas. And if you wanted to see one up close, they actually have one called Jose at the World Center for Birds of Prey, if you're interested. And then we have the ornate hawk eagle, and it has a crest. You can see a kind of a speckled belly and breast. And again, very large hawk. Now we're in the wood rails. We only have one. It's the russet-naped wood rail. It recently got its name changed to russet-naped. It used to be called the gray-necked wood rail. I kind of like that name better, but what can I say? Has a stout yellow bill and pink legs. You almost always find it on the edges of streams or ponds. And this is a limpkin. And this picture was taken in Florida. It's a dark brown bird with very large feet. And again, along the shorelines. Black-necked stilt, you can find these here in Idaho. And they have black backs, white front, and the neck or the nape is black. And what's distinctive about these are its very long pink legs. This is a black-bellied plover. It's actually about 10 or 11 inches tall. It's big for a plover. And but the plovers all have this small, thick, dark bill. So when you see a kind of a short, dark black bill, it's probably a black-bellied plover. And it's called black-bellied because in breeding colors, this white belly becomes black. This is a semi-palmated plover, and it kind of looks like a killdeer, only it only has one stripe across the breast and a very brown back and cap. Whereas the killdeer also has the brown cap and back, but it has two stripes. And the eye is kind of orange in the killdeer. Okay, the northern kana is a southern bird. And again, it's a shorebird with a yellow crown, and the underside of its wings are yellow. But the body, the back and the upper side of the wings are brown or rufous, kind of a reddish brown. And then the head and neck and breast are black. We've seen these as far south as the Amazon River. And then one of my favorite shorebirds is the spotted sandpiper. And the sandpiper on the left is what you normally would see, and it's kind of a solitary, fairly large, 8-inch sandpiper, white breast, yellow legs, and in breeding, it is spotted. And since they nest up in Idaho, you would more than likely see a spotted sandpiper in the spring. Then we have the greater yellow legs. These are common here in Idaho as well as in the Yucatan. And it's named for its a very long yellow legs. But it has a long bill. Half of it is kind of yellowish and the tip is black. And this bill is almost twice as long as the width of its head. There is another bird called the lesser yellow legs, shorter bill and shorter legs. This is a willet, and it's just kind of a very dull, nondescript bird, black-billed, dark gray legs, but when it flies, it has this very distinctive wing pattern. Now we have the marbled godwit, and this is a large shorebird with kind of a pink bill with a black tip, and the bill is slightly upturned, and I like to think of it as toward God, hence the name godwit. This is a ruddy turnstone, and it has a very orange legs and this very dark U-shaped breast, and again, a very distinctive wing pattern when it flies. This is a long distance flyer. They will travel from southern South America all the way to North America. So it's a migratory bird passing through the Yucatan. This is a sanderling, and they tend to be kind of white with a black bill, black eye, and this would be in breeding color. Non-breeding, it would be more brown, but the legs and the bill will still be black. It's a semi-palmated sandpiper, and a little larger than the semi-palmated plover, but kind of a similar bill, lighter in color. Black legs, black bill. This is a laughing gull in the middle here, and it has a all black head. There are 3 smaller gulls that have black heads like this. This is the only one that has a bill that has kind of an orange-black bill, and the other 2 also have complete eye rings. This one has a split eye ring. So it's called laughing gull. And now we have the Caspian tern, which is the largest of all terns, and very black cap and a very large orange bill with a black tip, which is similar to the royal tern, which is just a bit smaller, and the black on its head is not as complete. But it also has a very bright orange bill, but no black tip. And that's how you tell them apart. This is a sandwich tern. The sandwich tern has it's kind of all white, the black cap, and a black legs and black bill, but the black bill has a yellow tip. So you can spot the yellow tip here and right there. And this is a sandwich tern. These are black skimmers, and they tend to actually look quite black on the back. And the bill is orange with a black tip, and the lower bill is much longer than the upper bill. And so it'll fly along the top of the water and skim it and pick up fish that way. This is a rock pigeon. You will find these everywhere in the world or wherever there are people. And they're great variation in color. But this is kind of the typical gray color of a rock pigeon. We have pale vented pigeons, which are kind of purplish gray all over, with a gray bill, red eye, pink feet. Then a scale pigeon, kind of a reddish bill with the yellow tip, dark eye with an orange eye ring, rufous back, speckled breast. This is a red-billed pigeon, similar, but again, kind of like candy corn. This part of the bill is redder, and then yellow at the tip, reddish eye, kind of rufous turquoise pigeon. And this is a common pigeon here called the Eurasian collared dove. Comes from Europe and Asia, and now has migrated throughout the United States. It's kind of a light gray and has this black band on its nape or the back of the neck. And they can have as many as 4 clutches in a season or a year. And if you looked at the hunting guide for Idaho, these birds are open season and no bag limit. They're bigger than a mourning dove, but they're starting to outcompete the mourning dove of Idaho. This is a white-winged dove. You'll find this in the southern United States and throughout all of Mexico. And very light colored, white-winged because of the white in the front of the wing here. When it flies, it is even more evident. And it has a little black mustache just below the auricular, which is this area. You'll notice the blue around the eye. This is a very common small dove called the common ground dove. It's found throughout Mexico. And it actually has kind of a scale pattern on its neck and throat, and has black spots, dark brown spots on its wings. And when it flies, it has kind of a reddish wing pattern. This is the ruddy ground dove. When it flies, looks almost identical to the common ground dove, more reddish in color, or rufous. Again, has black spots, and the head will be lighter in color, and it may even be pink in some cases, but not scaled as in the common ground dove. This is a white tipped dove with a black bill, red legs, and white tip. And one of my favorites is the squirrel cuckoo. This is a quite long bird. I would say 15 to 18 inches long. Very yellow bill, very rufous head and tail and wings. This is the yellow-billed cuckoo that is endangered here in Idaho. Very rare to find, but its range is from Idaho all the way down to southern Mexico. So kind of a grayish brown top, white on the bottom, and the tail pattern is very distinctive. And in southern Mexico, you have the lesser roadrunner. Northern Mexico and the southwest, we have the greater roadrunner. This is a much smaller bird. And by the way, it's part of the cuckoo family. This is a groove-billed Annie, which is a large black bird, all black, but it's the bill that's shaped and has grooves. So groove-billed Annie. And we heard this pygmy owl in almost every state, but we only saw it in Campeche. But it's a small pygmy owl, ferruginous pygmy owl, similar to our northern pygmy owl. And it has very yellow eyes with very distinct white eyebrows, or supercilium. And this is a northern two. They only come out at night. This was taken with a flash. Gonna move on. We saw two swifts, an all black swift with a white collar, hence the white collared swift, and the Vox's swift, which is smaller and is kind of cigar shaped in body. And the Vox's swift, you generally see it in large flocks. And now we're into the hummingbirds. When you see the name hermit, it generally means a hummingbird with a D-curved bill. And this is the long-billed hermit, kind of all brown. And this is the striped-throated hermit. Not quite as curved. Then we have the wedge-tailed saberwing, which is primarily in Campeche, but again, white on the bottom and kind of shiny gray on top, and the tail has bluish feathers. This is the green-breasted mango, and the male is all green, very shiny, luminescent green, but again with a black throat. And the female has a white throat and belly, but with a black throat. So this is the female and this is the male. These are white-bellied emerald. It's a smaller hummingbird. But again, you can see the orange bill with the black tip, white belly. This is the rufous-tailed hummingbird, and primarily identified by its rufous tail, kind of an all-green body. This is a buff-bellied hummingbird, and green on the back, dark wings, and a buffy belly. And these pictures actually were taken in Texas. The cinnamon hummingbird is more of a brownish cinnamon look to it. So the cinnamon color is on the throat, breast, belly, and back. And then this is the Mexican sheartail. And you can see its gorget is purple. This is the male. And white belly and white breast and belly. And this is the ruby-throated hummingbird. Now this is the only hummingbird that is common in the eastern United States. And it winters down in the Yucatan area. And again, ruby-throated because of its bright ruby throat. Now we're into the trogons. This is the slaty tail trogon. And it's named after its very black tail, but it has a very orange, reddish-orange breast. And it's an all-green bird. And it also has orange eye and orange bill. Then we have the black-headed trogon. And this one is all black on the back, but very yellow belly. And the lower side of the tail is very distinctive. Now we have the guarded trogon. And this one has a very funny story because Lisa took this picture and we were on the Poa volcano in Costa Rica. And I climbed to the top of the volcano because they said that's where we would find the guarded trogon. And so Lisa said, I am not climbing that steep mountain. And so she waited for me on a bench. And by the time I got back an hour later, I said, I was just disappointed that we didn't find the trogon. And then she showed me her iPhone, and lo and behold, she got the trogon that landed right next to her bench. This is Lessons Motmot, and the Lessons Motmot has a turquoise crown, and it has two long bare tail feathers with rackets, and the rackets are blue or turquoise with the bottoms being black. And so they're kind of an olive green bird with a chestnut belly. And these two birds were really having a conversation when I took their picture. This is the turquoise motmot, and its racket is all black, and it has a turquoise eyebrow. And then they have a toady motmot, which is a tiny little motmot with no racket on its tail. And again, kind of a colorful little motmot. They had 4 different kinds of kingfishers. A very large ring kingfisher, bigger than our belted kingfisher. And the ring is, of course, the collar here. Whereas the common kingfisher here in Idaho is the belted kingfisher. And this rufous belt actually is the female. The male doesn't have one. And then they have a very large billed kingfisher. It's kind of a shiny dark green, black head, and this humongous bill. The bill is very stout and almost twice as long as its head, and that's the Amazon kingfisher. And I actually saw this in South Texas. And then they have a tiny little kingfisher called the green kingfisher. And this is actually very small, about the size of a sparrow, but a very long bill and a rufous breast, white belly. Then they have this little white whiskered puffbird, which is an insectivore. So I'm going to move on. And then they had this beautiful rufous-tailed jacamar. And the jacamar has this iridescent green head and back and rufous breast and belly. And the underside of the tail is rufous. And it perches on branches and flies out and catches insects like it caught this butterfly. And this is a quite large toucan, the only one that we saw. There are several varieties of toucans in Central America and Southern Mexico, but we only saw the keel-billed toucan, which is kind of all brown. It does have kind of red under the tail, and then the neck and head are yellowish, and the bill is green with some orange and kind of a dark tip. So very colorful bird. And this one sat out there for half an hour. Must have taken 50 pictures. Okay, this is the black-cheeked woodpecker because of its black cheek here and black eyebrow and red on the nape and the top of the head. And then this scallop pattern or streak pattern on the back. And then fairly large woodpecker, the size of our flicker, is the golden fronted woodpecker. Very kind of a palomino or buffy yellow look on the front. Has a little bit of red on the lower. The lower is between the bill and the eye. And then this one has red from the top of the head all the way back to the bottom of the nape, whereas this one on the right has the red only on the nape. This is the female, that's the male. And this is kind of a, like I said, a large woodpecker the size of our flicker. And in the Yucatan, they had a smaller version of it. And the small version is called the Yucatan woodpecker. We have kind of the same parallel here in Idaho with the large hairy woodpecker and a small downy woodpecker, which are hard to tell apart, except for maybe the bill size. But again, these are little, this is almost a pygmy woodpecker. And then another small woodpecker is the Ladderback woodpecker that we have here in Idaho. And the female is all black and the male has the red head and with the striated backs. And then they have a smoky brown woodpecker, and the male has the red cap and the female doesn't. And then a very large woodpecker, which is the lineated woodpecker, very similar to our pileated woodpecker, but with that very flashy red crown, hard to miss. And then a common bird down there, that is a hawk, but you find it in the falcon section, but it acts more like a vulture because it eats carrion. And the bird on the right is the adult, and the bird on the left is the juvenile. And they've now extended their range into Florida and South Texas. This is a laughing falcon. This falcon, it's a small falcon, but very distinctive because of its white crown, white collar, and then white undersides, and its laughing call. It has a banded tail. Can't confuse it with any other falcon. This is the American kestrel. The male is on the left, female on the right, with female tends to be all brown. Male has gray crown and gray wings. Of course, this one caught a mouse. And very common in the West, and they're not as common in the eastern United States. This is another bird you can find here in Idaho. It's the merlin. It's a small, fast-flying falcon, kind of a speckled pattern. And then we have the bat falcon, and very distinctive. It's kind of all black with striped breast, white collar, and then these ochre colored thighs. And then the largest falcon, which is the Peregrine Falcon, which can be found on the Idaho quarter. And again, the head is all black, as well as the nape. Whoops. And this black wedge below the eye makes it very distinctive. Very flat, fast flying falcon. They've been clocked over 90 miles an hour. This is a olive-throated parakeet. It's kind of an all green, brighter green on top, duller green on the breast. And parakeets can be distinguished from parrots by their tail. Parakeets have long tails, and parrots have short tails. And this is the olive-throated parakeet. Then we have the scarlet macaw, probably one of the most beautiful birds in the parrot family. And they're kind of endangered because their feathers are so beautiful, very distinctive. A white-fronted parrot, and as you can see, it has a lot of white on the front. And this one also has a front on the front of the wings. And here's the yellow Lord Parrot. It's very similar. It's kind of the white front, but it has the yellow lores here. So if we looked at the two, they're a little different. And then we have the red Lord Parrot, which has a red front and red on the lores. The lores is the area between the bill and the eye. Now, this is the only antshrike that we have, and this is the barred antshrike. If you see the bird on the left, that's the male. You can't mistake it for any other bird, very streaked. The female is more rufous and has streaking around the face. And they tend to stay low. This is a scaly-throated leaf tosser, and they tend to get down onto the ground of the jungle, toss the leaves, but it acts quite a bit like a wood creeper, but very scaly on the underside. This is a plain xenops, which is a very small wood creeper. And again, very distinctive white mustache here, kind of an all brown or tawny brown bird with a wedge-shaped bill. Then we have the tawny wood creeper, which has a longer wedge-shaped bill and tawny wings and a rufous tail. This is the northern barred wood creeper, which is a much larger bird with a lot of streaking on the head and neck and breast. Rufous back. The ivory-billed wood creeper has more streaking on the underside and on the nape of the neck and top of the head, and a much stouter long bill. Then we have the streaked-headed wood creeper, which is smaller, finer bill, with again streaking around the head and lower side or underside of the bird. The wedge-shaped wood creeper, again, is a very small wood creeper with a wedge-shaped bill with streaking on the throat and breast, and also on the neck and head. Now we're getting into the flycatchers. This is the yellow-bellied Ileana. This pair actually didn't have that much yellow on its belly, but they do have these very dull gray heads and backs with dark bills. And then this is the flashier ochre-bellied flycatcher. And you can see that the bill is almost all black with a little bit of red at the bottom. Very faint eye ring. And again, olive green on the back. But the distinction is the ochre-colored belly and breast. This is a sepia-capped flycatcher, which is kind of a olive green cap and back. And these kind of buffy eye wing bars on the wings, and it's kind of yellow on the underside. This is the yellow olive flycatcher, very similar, and again, kind of a yellow olive bottom, underside. This is the sulfur rump flycatcher, and so it has bright yellow on its rump. The rump is actually the upper backside, the lower backside by the tail, and then under this is the belly, which is also sulfur colored or yellow. Then we have the eastern wood pewee, very similar to the western wood pewee, but this is an eastern United States bird that winters in the Yucatan. Neither wood pewee has an eye ring, and kind of dull brown, gray brown, and then kind of a grayish white underside. This is a tropical pewee. Again, no eye ring to speak of, and the bill is yellower, and again yellow on the belly, but the breast is more white. The yellow-bellied flycatcher. This one is an Empidonax. This is a kind of a subfamily, and the subfamily has these white wing bars. You can see the orange bill has an eye ring and yellow belly. This is the least flycatcher. Again, you see the wing bars. This bill is black on top and kind of orange on the bottom, white eye ring, yellowish belly, very small. But again, an Empidonax. Okay, here we have the vermilion flycatcher, bright scarlet red head and underside in the male with a very dark back. Female has kind of a grayish brown back and a pink belly. This is the bright rumped Attila. Again, very dark streaked head with a red eye and a very yellow rump. This is the dusky capped flycatcher. Now we're in a different family, the Myarchus family of flycatchers. And you can see the crest on these two birds. They're kind of brownish on the top, and the belly is yellow. The throat and breast is more white. This is the great crested flycatcher. The head is all gray, kind of brown on the back, and then again, gray throat, yellow belly. Brown crested flycatcher, again, another crested flycatcher, same Myarchus family. And again, white throat and breast, yellow belly, and kind of brownish on the back. The great Quisquery is actually a quite large flycatcher, very common throughout Mexico and in the Yucatan. And it's distinctive because this white eyebrow goes all the way around the head and meets at the nape. That's important because the next bird is very similar in look, only in this one, the boat-billed, the bill is much thicker and wider, hence boat-billed, but very similar looking. You kind of have to look at them twice, and they both have very bright yellow breasts. And then there's that smaller version of the social flycatcher. Much smaller bird. The white doesn't go all the way to the nape, doesn't meet at the back. Very bright yellow. And the sides, the wings are more of a gray and not a rufous red like you see in the Quisquery here. If you see them in real life, you can really tell the difference in size. Then we get into the Trianus family, which are the kingbirds. Our kingbird is called the Western kingbird, and all 5 kingbirds look almost identical. This tropical kingbird has a very white throat and yellow, and you can't, and a little bit of white on the tip. Hard to distinguish from the Couch's kingbird, which is very similar. The bill is a little bit shorter on the Couch's, but in the field, hard to tell apart. The only way you can really tell them apart is by their song. And then we have the scissor-tailed flycatcher. These were taken in Texas, but we saw them in the Yucatan. And they have kind of a reddish underwing and then this pinkish orange belly. And you can see it on both of these birds. And their tails are forked. Of course, here the tail doesn't look forked because they brought the 2 tails together, or the 2 forks together. And then we have the fork-tailed flycatcher. The previous one was the scissor-tailed. This is the fork-tail, has much longer tails, and they're black, not red or rufous. And so it's more of a gray, black bird, white collar, white underbottom. Now into a flashier bird, the red-capped manakin, which is more low shrub bird. And the male is very distinctive because it has these yellow thighs and this scarlet red head with a white eye and a black body. Hard to miss that one. Then we have the white collared manakin, and the male has a black crown, white collar and throat, black wings, and then yellow breast. Whereas the female is kind of an all green bird. Both have orange legs and feet. We have the masked tyra, which is an all white bird with a black mask. Hard to miss that one. And then we have the cinnamon becard, which is kind of cinnamon orange, small flycatcher. The rose-throated Bacard. No. Yeah, I saw that. Which has a rose throat. And then the vireos have an eye ring and then the eye brow that goes all the way to the bill. And this one here has a white eye, hence white-eyed vireo. And then we have the yellow-throated one with a yellow eye ring and eyebrow. And this is a cute little lesser greenlet, kind of yellow-green bird. And rufous-browed peppershrike, which has a rufous brow and the greenish-yellow breast. Now we're into the jays. This is the brown jay. They're much larger birds. And this one's an all-brown bird with a yellow eye. And the underside is white, yellow legs. And then the green jay, which I think is a beautiful bird, which has a blue head, and it has green on the back and green-blue tail, and then a bright yellow underside, the black collar. The Yucatan jay, I wish I had a better picture of the male or the adult, but the adult is all black-headed and with a blue body. And the black bill, the juvenile, has the blue on the back, black body, and an orange bill. Same bird, different age. Mangrove swallow reminded me of the tree swallow, but the difference is the white rump. Then they have a northern rough-winged swallow, which we have here. And then they have the Ridgway's rough-winged swallow, which is a smaller swallow found in the Yucatan and Campeche. And similar to our barn swallow is the cave swallow. They look a lot alike, but the barn swallow has the split wings, the swallowtails. This one has a square tail and kind of a rufous collar, and distinguished from cliff swallows. And the cliff swallow would have a white forehead, and this one has a reddish forehead. And this is the barn swallow, and you can see the swallowtail, unique to the barn swallow. Very common bird here in Idaho. Now we're into the wrens. This is the bandbacks wren. I'm going to have to speed it up a bit here. A Yucatan wren. The Carolina wren is actually an eastern bird that winters in the Yucatan. And then the southern house wren, very similar to our house wren. And then there's the spotted breasted wren with a lot of spots. And then the wood thrush is an eastern US bird, which winters in the Yucatan. And then the clay-colored thrush, which is a national bird of Costa Rica, and it's common all the way up to Texas. And it's kind of a dull-colored thrush. And then gray catbird, we find these in Idaho. Black cap, all gray, and red bottom. The tropical kingbird is very similar to our northern mockingbird. I said kingbird, I meant tropical mockingbird. Similar to the northern mockingbird, only it's darker in color. And now we're into the warblers. This is the ovenbird, which is kind of striped on the breast, all brown, primarily stays on the ground. And then this is the worm-eating warbler, northern water thrush, stays near the water and streams, and very striped. This is these are all eastern warblers that winter in the Yucatan. This is the blue-winged warbler, the black and white warbler, which is the most common, and the Tennessee warbler, the gray-crowned yellowthroat, And then our common yellowthroat, which we have here in Idaho as black mask near marshes. This is a Kentucky warbler, the hooded warbler, again, very distinctive face pattern. The golden crowned warbler, the American redstart. This bird flashes its tail to attract insects. The northern parula. This bird tends to be way up high in the canopies. And the Magnolia Warbler, you can see the male and the female. And then the yellow warbler, which we have here in Idaho, with a striped breast. And then this is a large variation of the yellow warbler, only found in mangroves, with a reddish or rufous head, and it's called mangrove warbler, but it's a subspecies of the yellow warbler. And this is the chestnut-sided warbler, and it has this reddish or chestnut side. And then the black-throated green warbler, I think these are beautiful birds. Got to see a lot of those. And another impressive bird was the yellow-throated warbler. Saw a lot of those. And Wilson's warbler, which you can find here in Idaho with the little black bishop's cap on top. Now we're into the tanagers. We don't get these at all. The only tanager we get in Idaho is the western tanager, but they don't have, they're northern, and ours are southern. This is the yellow-winged tanager, and this blue bird tends to stay high in the canopies, meaning the tops of the trees. This is the Passerini's tanager, which is a very bright rump, and then this dull-looking female bird doesn't even look like the male. And this is very common, probably the most common tanager is the blue-gray tanager. And you find them throughout Mexico and Central America and South America. This is the golden hooded tanager. The golden hood, the gray-headed tanager. And now we're into the grass quits, which tend to be down into the grass. This one here is called the blue-black. And now we have the variable seed eater, and you can see that chunky bill to crack seeds. And this is a white-collared seed eater. You can actually get them in South Texas. These were taken in Chiapas at Palenque. This is the buff-throated saltator. Saltator means jumper. It jumps around. And this is the buff throat. And this is the black-headed saltator, which is kind of black crown, gray head. And now we're into the sparrows. We only saw the greenback sparrow. It looks a lot like our white crowned sparrow, only the back is kind of a yellow-green. And the white in between the stripes on the head are not as white as the white-headed, white-crowned sparrow. This is a summer tanager, bright red. This is the male. And this is a red-throated ant tanager. And this is a blue-black grosbeak. And then a beautiful indigo bunting. We actually found one at Fort Boise on the Snake River. Red-winged blackbird, very common here. The melodious blackbird is an all-black bird, which really sings very beautifully. And then the great-tailed grackle is a very large grackle. The male is actually twice as large as the female, and they're making their way into the Southwest, moving north. Global warming. This is the bronze cowbird, all black bird with a red eye. You can see the red eye. And this is a black-cowled oriole, and black head, black back, black throat. And this is a hooded oriole, most common oriole down there. with the black on the face and throat, and no black on the head. This is the orange oriole. And then the largest oriole is the Altamira oriole, very similar. And it has this yellow wing bar here. The only one that does. And then, Baltimore made me a liar. The Baltimore oriole has it, but it is all black on the head and back, and smaller. Then we have a very large bird called the Montezuma oropendula, which has a very goofy sounding, garbly call. Very fascinating bird. And then 3 little euphonias, the scrub eufonia, the yellow-throated eufonia, and the olive-backed eufonia. And then I'm ending it with the alligator, or the crocodile. This is a crocodile, but look at the tail, how thick it is in the back. And this was on that river, that swift-moving river between Guatemala and Mexico. And so I just couldn't imagine with all these crocodiles, people swimming that river. Now I'm open to questions.
So Alex, Gypsy Hall very much liked your presentation, but she has a question. Given the herons and other non-raptor birds have their eyes on the side of their head, how do they stab their fish prey?
You know, I guess because the birds actually not only have very good peripheral vision, but they can actually look down and focus or triangulate on the fish with the birds where the eyes are. Because they can look in front of them. They can see very well in front of them, except for right in front of their bill. Or not in front of the bill, but right in front of their eyes on the forehead. So they do have a blind spot there.
So are there any other questions? If anyone has questions, feel free to just unmute yourself and ask away. Okay, well, I think that does it. Thank you all for attending today. And I hope that when the pandemic is over, we can all pick up our travels again and view all the beautiful creatures that are out in different parts of the world. Thank you, Steve, for hosting. And thank you everyone for attending today. And thank you, Alexander, for the informative presentation.
Yeah, I did want to say that I've really been impressed with the Rhodes Scholar trips because they give very informative lectures along with their guides. And so I've never been disappointed by a Rhodes Scholar trip. So if you get a chance to go on one, do so. They generally have small groups, 12 or less.
Yes, I agree. Rhodes Scholar caters to older travelers, mature travelers, and it is a wonderful organization that really incorporates learning opportunities and lectures, wonderful lectures, and can't say enough good things about Rhodes Scholar. So thank you everyone for attending. At this point, we will close our class, and thank you